welcome to yet another episode of Occasionally with me, the incredible, beautiful Brenda. And today we have something very interesting to talk about. Suicide. I feel like that's a very tender topic, and I'm happy. And guess who's having us expound on this? The incredible Ashton Davey. Hi, Ashton.
Hey, Brenda.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Tell them what you do, because Ashton has, it's first of all professionally, her point of view today is from a professional level, and she has experience, not for personal experience, but professional experience. So Ashton, tell us what you do.
Yeah, well, I got my master's in social work at the University of Washington in Seattle in the United States. And then last year I became a licensed independent clinical social worker, which just fancy word for qualifies me to be a mental health therapist.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. So I like that. So Ashton, I feel like with the pandemic, suicide has just gone probably tenfold.
Yeah.
And already the numbers before even the pandemic were overwhelming.
In Uganda, in the world?
Generally in the world.
Okay.
In the world. So, but because I feel like the reason the suicide rates in Uganda have gone high, I feel like the pandemic was a shock. It's been mismanaged, and people have gone like downhill. So with me, I feel like if the world is like on X, I feel like with Uganda is like 2X.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I want to know, Ashton, tell us what's demystify for us suicide. What causes it? Yeah.
Well, going back to what you were saying about COVID, it's interesting because I think in Uganda, I've heard people say that suicide is kind of a Western thing. Mental health is a Western.
Yeah.
But actually, one of the determining factors or an increased risk factor for suicide is poverty, which I think, Uganda has suffered economically with COVID.
Yeah.
So, sadly, it's not surprising that rates are increasing.
Yeah.
Other factors that maybe can predict if somebody is more likely to go down the path of suicidality might be similar factors to depression. So hopelessness, feeling low, feeling lonely.
Yeah.
Hopelessness is really the important one, where you just feel like there's not another option.
Oh, okay. So you said that the factors are similar to depression.
Yeah.
So are you saying that suicidal thoughts can occur independent of depression?
They can.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I really did not know that.
Yeah. Depression it's spoken in like layman's terms. Like it's used normally in our language today, right? I'm feeling depressed.
Yes.
So there's that. Then there's clinical depression, which is you're like meeting the criteria for that diagnosis. But there's a range there, and I don't think we're necessarily using the word wrong in normal day-to-day conversation, but there is a range. So yeah, I think suicidality, I read somewhere that I think 50% of people experience suicidal thoughts at some point in their life. I don't know if that's in America or if that's worldwide, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But that kind of shows that even if it's a fleeting thought, it's more normal than we think it is.
Really?
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
Wait, what do you mean it's more normal than we think?
To have a thought, to have this thought of, maybe it would be better off if I wasn't here. Maybe I should, like, even just thinking of ending my life is thought of more than we realize people are thinking of it.
Oh, you're saying we think of it more than we acknowledge?
Yes,
but
yeah.
It's not normal, is it?
Well, it shouldn't be, right? The goal is for it to not be spoken about or not be felt, but it is. So I think that's part of the goal of suicide prevention is to create a space where people actually can speak about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, for example, if I was born and raised, I've not had suicidal thoughts, but let's say up to my adult life.
Yeah.
Are there people that are more predisposed to experience suicidal thoughts? And can it come and go?
Yeah.
And mean nothing.
I wouldn't say that it ever means nothing, because even if it's a thought that you have one moment and don't have the next, you still something still caused you to have that thought. So there's power in that. There's gravity in somebody is considering that they're so hopeless that they would rather end their life, right?
Yeah.
So as fleeting or as long-term as these thoughts are, I think there's importance in realizing that it's still there. The thought is there.
Okay. I'm sorry, I'm really not moving on from this. So
Yeah.
what I want to understand is, are there people who get this thought once and then never again? Or is it consistent? Like how you say you have a low mood, doing clinical that's occurring over time. So if I had like just randomly like, I wish I could end it.
Yeah.
And is it possible that it never comes up again?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And I think there's also a range of suicidality, right? There's a thought comes into my head where it's maybe even just like you're having a rough day and this thought just comes in your head. And you might not spend time on it, but it's come into your head of, I want to kill myself. Or my family would be better off without me. This world would be better if I didn't exist. Something like that. Then it goes all the way to, I'm fixating on suicide, of ending my life. I'm thinking about it more. Then I'm thinking about how I would do it. I have a plan. Okay. Then I've attempted before. So obviously, as the further you go along that spectrum, the more the increased risk.
Yeah. But as loved ones or as people that are experiencing it, should I be worried from that first little thought? Do you get my question? Yeah. So,
I absolutely think so. Because it shows that something's off. Something is, maybe that person is lonely, or they feel trapped, or they don't know what to do about whatever their situation is. So the earlier you can intervene, the better, before it gets further down. So I think it's kind of a misnomer that if we talk about suicide, we're putting that thought into someone's head, right? It's scary to bring up that word with someone who hasn't said outright that they're feeling suicidal. So I think something really important for people to know is that research shows over and over that that asking somebody if they're considering hurting themselves, if they feel at risk, the more specific you can be, are you feeling suicidal, is really important to not put the burden of saying that word on the person who's feeling it. So if you're down, if you're low, and I say, things are tough, things that you're in a hard spot right now. I'm just wondering if you've happened to think about, ending your life. Has that thought come to you, or how are you doing? That's not going to give them the idea, maybe I should. But it feels like that. It's scary. It feels like you're like, well, maybe I think you should because it seems so bad. But
or maybe I'm creating the idea in you and I think about it.
Right. But research actually does show that that's not what happens. That people know that is an option. Like people know about suicide. People know that happens. So you're not putting it in their head. You're creating the space for them to talk about it, which is very, very important. That you're validating that it's real.
Okay, I feel like people who are going through it, in your expert opinion, do you think that they want to be asked? Because in my non-expert opinion, from like a social perspective, it feels like when people are going through it, they don't want to be, are you having these thoughts? Is everything okay?
Why do you think they wouldn't want to talk about it?
Because it's my experience. Okay, it's what I think. I don't know. I could be wrong. Like whenever I see someone going through it, I feel like I want them to tell me. Usually, I just create the avenue for them to speak. Vis-a-vis, like even if I see it,
Yeah.
because I feel like if I ask like Ashton, like I'm watching your tendencies have changed.
Yeah.
And then I ask like directly, I feel like they don't like it, or people don't like it.
Ask what directly?
Like for example, I'm worried you're suicidal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Usually what I do, non-expert opinion, is I'll create the environment and maybe bring up that topic. But I find it hard because I thought, let's say Ashton, you wouldn't want me to come and tell me like, Ashton, you don't seem like you're very fine. Yeah. I feel like most people want to be given the avenue to speak about it than be asked directly.
I think there's cultural nuance to that. So I don't know that I can speak exactly into what the average person would want in that situation in this context.
Yeah.
From my background, I think that people very much are seeking for connection. Yeah. So if they're feeling alone in their thoughts, in their struggle, whatever's bothering them, I think a natural response is to actually want to receive support in that. So I don't suggest that people start off the conversation with, "Are you feeling suicidal?" It's creating space. And based on your relationship, if it's a loved one, then you have a basis of a relationship. You're checking in with them, you're asking how they're doing, and hopefully eliciting them to be speaking about what's happening, which then provides the opportunity to, when it's, feels right in that moment, to ask directly.
Okay, and then I feel like with other disorders or with other issues or distresses, they're visible. You can see someone is moving with this and the burden is visible. With suicide, is there, Ashton is suicidal, or Brenda is suicidal, or you understand how the loved ones know that their loved one or their friend or enemy is suicidal so that they could help?
I think that's what's interesting. Like with other mental illnesses, suicide is unique, and there's like an event, an obvious result of distress, which you just, I think, don't see pan out in other types of suffering. But I think in the final stages of someone's suicidality, before they maybe make an attempt, a lot of times people say that that people feel a sense of relief, and maybe their low mood actually increases and they seem like they're doing well, but it's because they've accepted this solution that they have decided for themselves to end their pain, right? Yeah. And so it's common that right before someone makes an attempt, they actually seem a lot better.
Already, like, yes.
That's scary, because that's someone who has said, all right, I have a plan, I'm going to do this, and I feel at peace about my decision.
Like I meant my mind.
Yeah, there's an out to my suffering.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah. Some people like try to get their life in order, get their finances in order, give away their pets. There's like warning signs at the very end that people are kind of like making peace with their end.
Oh, but she should at the end.
Very end.
I can imagine, like they made up their mind, they've actually thought about it.
Yeah. But I think if you suspect that someone is suicidal and you're talking to them and they're like, I have kind of been thinking about that. And the next question to ask so that you can gauge how far along they are is, what's your plan? How would you do it? And you ask directly how they're thinking of killing themselves. And that tells you how imminent of a danger they are to themselves. If they've thought about how they're going to do it, then that's pretty scary. Yeah. So then you can intervene, safety planning, and trying to help remove the dangers.
That's crazy though, right?
Yeah.
It's scary.
That's why I think people don't talk about it, right? There's fear, and it feels very fragile in how to intervene because the consequence is big.
It is. It really is. It's such a big decision. Oh my.
Yeah. But I think if we can demystify and help normalize the language of talking about it and giving people space to be validated in their pain and in their suffering, I think we could save a lot of lives.
Okay, considering Uganda,
Yeah.
I know you've heard of the culture and the belief around suicide and what families do when someone commits suicide. They beat you. Have you heard of that?
No.
You've not heard of it?
Mm-mm.
Oh my God.
What families do after?
Not families, but traditionally. I don't want to quote it in a way that's wrong.
Yeah.
But in most traditions, when someone commits suicide, for example, I own this house and the family and my child or whatever commits suicide, let's say by hanging.
Mm-hmm.
The ones I've read about in the papers have been by hanging.
Mm-hmm.
They unhang the corpse and then cane because I don't know what the belief is in, but it's more like punishing and unacceptable. You can't do that, like regardless if.
Wow.
Yes.
Seems like a harsh response.
It is. So I wish I'd heard about it before because I want to know what your take is.
I would think maybe like beating a spirit out of them or something.
Yes,
but
it's in that.
Okay,
energy, yeah.
Not beating the person for what they've done.
Everything for the crime. You know, it's
Yeah.
a crime. Actually, I think by law as well in Uganda, it's a crime to commit suicide. By law.
So what's the punishment? If you've completed suicide,
you survived. But if they get you and like an attempt, yes.
It's a very sad response. Yeah.
Yeah. How does that make you feel? Because
I mean, it's silencing.
Yeah.
That isolates people who are struggling. If there's a pressure to not, if being seen in your suffering in that way is going to earn punishment, then you're silenced and you're more pushed further into loneliness.
Absolutely. I feel like that's one of the issues we deal with as mental health advocates. And we've had this conversation before, about Conquer Uganda and the platform we're trying to create, recruit therapists and make the service available. But one of the challenges of being into this mental health advocacy space is the tradition and the beliefs that go around it. Because how do you demystify it? And you said poverty. Poverty is like on a hike. It's just insane what the economy is going. So that means literally almost everyone at some point in some homesteads are suffering from suicide. But then how do we help such people? Do you get me?
I think so. It gave me another thought of, especially with the concept of poverty in Uganda and COVID, I think I've heard more examples of men who are feeling so much pressure to provide for their family. And also the stigma of men talking about emotion or having a actual place, a constructive place where they can talk about their feelings. Like that's not commonly accepted here.
They say you're not a real man.
Right.
Yeah. If
and
you
that is
attempt to put your emotions out. So like just imagine
it's very destructive.
That's like a pressure. I don't know, vessel, like you've been fired, you have to provide for your family, which usually is large. And then at some point, I can't talk about suicide because they'll probably shoot me before I even attempt to.
Right. Or they'll really think I'm weak if I'm thinking of not providing for my family.
The thing is just thinking, they will tell you in the face, Ashton, like, you're such a weak man, you understand? So I think culturally right now, we need to encourage men to speak honestly. I agree.
And not judge or call men weak if they're bringing forth a very common struggle. Like,
you know what?
It's part of the human experience.
The men themselves call themselves weak before even the ladies step in. Like,
why do you think that might be?
I believe it's the social construct from schools, the school dynamics in this country are things like that. A man is told to put his feelings in. you're not supposed to cry.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not supposed to express any emotional. All you have to express is money, financial, and marriage. You understand?
Yeah.
For social construct, and then also, of course, the women also suffer with their own social construct. So all of it, you can imagine the adult that comes out of that kind of system.
But if we can raise our boys to have a different view of themselves, then in a generation we can start changing that.
I can see changes. I can actually see changes between the different generations when you interact with different people.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say the millennials and the Gen Zs, it's different. They talk about it openly. Like, this is even boys. Like, I know the Gen Zs for me are my favorite. Like, my big brother is a Gen Z. And every time he's like expressing himself, I'm so happy. I'm just like, nice.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Express yourself. And then you meet him with his friends and they really do express themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Then you come to us. It's a 50-50. The ones that express themselves are bashed by the ones who don't express themselves. But yeah, because we're speaking about it more and saying no, there's no such thing as you're not a real man.
Mm-hmm.
And, you're a man. You're a man is just different. Some are more sensitive than others. Then the older generation do not.
Yeah.
Do you know that most of our fathers, Ashton, would rather choke on gallons of water than say I love you?
Right.
Like he would rather stand in a storm and like go on there.
We laugh, but
I know, but we can still laugh about it.
I know.
So that's how bad the system is. Like it's so ingrained in how people think, the smallest unit of their thoughts. So it's a long journey. So Ashton, what would you tell that person that's watching that has this constant suicidal thoughts, and like we said, the system has put them in, had a rock under
hard place.
Mm-hmm. What would you tell that kind of person?
I would say think about who is closest to you and try to get help. Try to talk about it. Yeah, and admit the place that you're in, and get support. Find someone safe that can offer support, and don't do it alone, because healing happens in community.
Thank you. I was going to ask you right now, are there people who can do it alone?
Of course, but it's not recommended, right?
Yeah, no.
There's not one straight path towards healing for everybody, but I think it's generally a lot harder by yourself.
I agree.
Yeah.
I feel like it's already a painful journey. Then how do you walk this painful journey alone? Like,
right.
Yeah, I want to say something funny. Like, it's like walking in a storm, like, what we're talking about our fathers, and like, this feels like you're walking in a path that's dark, storm, but you're just alone. Like, that's so painful, guys. And I meet so many people that tell me, I can't do therapy, it's new. How do you talk to a stranger? I don't know who they are. Basically, the concept is new, which I agree. But let's be open to it, people. Let's be open to new things. Don't be the hard-headed person that's like refusing to get help because of fear. I understand the fear. I understand everything, but rise above it. You can't just do it alone, right?
Yeah. I have a question for you.
Yeah, please.
So, my experience of Uganda is that people are generally pretty present. Like, the moment right now is important. But there's a common phrase when people are struggling, Ojak Babalunji, like, you'll be fine.
You'll be fine, yeah.
But I find that phrase dismissive of the present. It's like, you'll be fine. And my response when I hear people say that is like, but I'm not fine now.
Yeah.
Is that how you interpret it? Is that how, like, I don't know.
Yeah, usually when people say it, immediately my brain gives me the two interpretations. You'll be fine, like, you will be fine. Like, from a loved one, like, I give you a hug, you will be fine. I feel like that's what it's supposed to be. But the Ugandan, you will be fine, is not that. The Ugandan fine is, oh, shut up, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very, people here, we are dismissive of feelings, Ashton.
Right.
Like, and I can understand it. Do you know why I can understand it? It's hard for everyone. Everyone is going through, it's the economy, it's the weather, it's the global, it's everything that's just working against the population. So I think the population reaches a point where everyone is vulnerable and there's no one, they breathe, but there's no one to talk to. So, and the whole don't talk to people, put your emotions in. People become moving, bag of emotions. So don't bother me with your problems. I have my problems. So everyone is always like, you're not the first one. You're not alone. There's so many comments. I don't know why they're not coming to mind right now, but there's so many dismissive comments people make.
Do you think it's the same way in rural Uganda?
Everywhere?
Like people are dismissing other people's issues instead of talking?
I think the rural areas, I feel like the dismissal is more in communities, in urban population. That's what I think. The urban community.
I do too.
Yeah. Then the rural areas, I don't think is that. The rural areas is more of ignorance about the subject matter.
Yeah.
But they have the togetherness.
Right.
And
the community, which I think the number one protective factor for mental illness is community.
Yeah.
And what's, I'm curious, I guess, what will happen in Uganda in the next few years when I just see individualism creeping in faster and faster and faster from the West. And that's, if you have a community where emotion is silenced, and then you're also in this fight alone, that's where we have an issue. Yeah.
Taking time bomb. And I don't know if there's so much that can be done about it, because there's even no direction for mental health in Uganda right now as we speak.
But I think it's coming.
It's coming by all means. Oh, it's there. It's like there. It's
yeah,
coming.
yeah.
It's coming by all means.
Out of necessity, but
yes, but it has to.
Yeah, it has to.
Everyone is struggling with a mental something. People are becoming suicidal. You mentioned something about community. I want to talk about it in a social aspect. Friends, family, colleagues, association. Because of lockdown, I'm seeing so many people in groups like cliques, but not for any purpose. I feel like it's more destructive behavior, let's say drinking in groups excessively and everything. And in terms of community, can such a group, because it's a community anyway, can it be of help? For example, we are in a group and all we do is something that I hate so much, kusimbula. You know what? I'm sure you've heard that, kusimbula.
I don't know kusimbula.
You don't know that one?
No.
Oh, then I'm going to play for you after. But kusimbula is like slang lingo we're using now to say enjoyment, like to drink, but it's mostly for drinking. So you'll find so many people have created kusimbula groups where the only language they speak is drinking and what they call fun. But for me, I find it beyond that. And they call them communities. So I guess what I'm trying to ask you to tell them and them, are these communities, are they beneficial to someone who is going through a suicidal episode?
I think it depends on the tone of that community. Is it a space where people are actually talking honestly?
They usually don't speak. Drinking.
Then maybe
Say
not.
It.
It's hard to judge because I've not been in that inside. So I'm from the outside.
I get you, yeah.
But I don't know. Any opportunity for connection is better than being alone. Okay. But if you're with toxic people who are discouraging or invalidating of what you're going through, then that can make it harder.
Thank you. You said what I wanted to hear. For me, what I wanted to say was toxic and dismissive of what you're going through.
Yeah.
I feel like we should all pay attention to the people we interact with. I mean, I understand there's reasons we associate with different people, which is understandable. Money has to be made, everything has to go on.
Yeah.
But at some point, if you're struggling with your mental health, I feel like you should pay attention to your community. Yeah. But then, Ashton, I've also been told that one of the self-destruction, like people who are going through a downhill of, emotions, self-destruct in the sense that they see a bad community and say, this is what I want. Is that true? Because I've been told that.
I've seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't make sense, does it?
It doesn't, but I'm just like, wow.
But it's common.
Yeah. Like, I see it, and I'm just like, I know it, but that's what I want.
Yeah.
And then I'll go in and how do you, if I have a friend in that kind of scenario, how do I help such a person?
I think ask them what they're, like, if you get to know someone's story, right? What's the story that brought you to this place that you're at?
Yeah.
And you're in an open dialogue, then you are going to get at what do they need? What are they looking for? What was going to help them?
Okay.
So if they are themselves identifying what's healthy, what's going to help, then maybe asking them if the community they're a part of is helping them. Is it offering the things that they've just identified they need? But if you come in and say, those people are bad, like, that's rarely going to work because they're just probably going to do the same thing and not tell you about it, right?
Absolutely.
It just adds shame to what they're going to continue to do.
Oh yeah, I feel you.
Yeah. You can't tell someone, just leave the thing that it's meeting some need, right?
Yeah.
Like basics of human behavior, we do everything we do is serving us in some way, whether it's not actually long-term healthy or you can't tell someone to just cut off something that they're doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. You cannot. It needs a lot of expertise, right? Right?
I don't think so. I think everybody has a role in this.
Okay.
I think if we are afraid of suicidality and speaking about it, then we're not going to be inviting of opening up that space with people. So if we can kind of demystify what suicidality is and how people feel when they're in that position, then we're more capable of validating their experience instead of focusing on, I'm afraid I'm going to mess up, right? When we're trying to support another person.
Yeah.
So the best thing we can do is validate and say, I can imagine this feels so overwhelming.
Yeah.
Like, if you can just permit them to have the feelings, then you can create a pathway towards getting out of being alone in that. Yeah.
I like that very much. Actually. Like, because I feel like people around just don't give people the platform. Just validate. It doesn't have to validate. Just validate. What do you lose? Why must you be toxic every time? You know? Why?
And it doesn't even have to mean that you agree. Like, I don't agree that you should kill yourself. I believe I can hold the hope for you that I see other options out of this. But I can understand that you can't see that right now.
Yeah.
Like, you're not judging them for having the feelings. They're going to have them. So it's giving permission.
I like that very much. Guys, I hope you're learning from these because I like this very much. Let's be very sensitive because, Ashton, before we close up, can you give us any statistics on suicide? Because I need people to hear because the numbers are overwhelming. Anything that will get...
I don't know any
statistics.
statistics.
You can't think of any right now?
Especially that are applicable in this context. I don't know any statistics of Uganda.
No, I get you too, because I also forgot. I just keep forgetting, but
Just know that it's more than what you think. It's common.
Yeah.
And that, you're not going to put suicidal thoughts in someone else's mind. So try to not be afraid of talking about it.
Thank you, Ashton. Yeah. Thank you so much, because I've actually had that fear of, what if they're like, and we've not thought about it, then I say it and I'm like creating it.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah,
you're welcome. So many people needed to hear it.
Good.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
So guys, let's do this. Let's be each other's, what's it called? Support, yeah, because like Ashton said, like by virtue of being in Uganda, things are just like arrows are being shot at you. So it's not you choosing to be suicidal or to suffer. It's just by virtue of your existence here, you will or may not, but most probably be affected in a way or another by suicide or someone you love. Let's help. Let's be nice. And also very importantly, I hope you know, if you don't know, that's a crime. I'm a co-founder of Conquer Uganda, a mental health organization that's dedicated to timely and professional mental health care. Ashton and I will be talking on that length over another period of time. But yeah, we're happy. Ashton is a very professional as well. So the space that we're trying to create is a professional space. I love that you're very, of course you're already professional. I love that, but you're very eloquent. I love it. You're straight on, like you hit the nail. I love that very much. Yeah. So guys, the spaces that we're going to create together away, because I know she's into mental health, she's running, she has her own ideas going on.
Yeah.
You're welcome. You're always very welcome. Let's do this. Don't be alone. Don't walk this journey alone. It's important to be with someone.
Yeah. Reach out for help.
Yeah, reach out for help. We'll put contacts. We'll just keep sharing contacts whenever we can. But don't walk this journey alone. Don't be that person that believes that you can do it alone. No. It's a very painful journey.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, thank you. Till next time. Thank you, Ashton.
Thank you, Brenda.
Wave to the people, Ashton.